Hey everyone, this is Untold Force, and it's 2026, so it's time to go over the new changes in VKB software and also firmware. This video is going to do a quick overview of how to update your VKB device firmware. So first off, some things have changed since my last video. If you want to download regular, what we would consider kind of stable release, you go to vkbcontrollers.com and then click the downloads button here. And the downloads will show you kind of the main channel or stable firmware, as well as the stable VKB device config or VKB dev config apps and everything else. What you're going to need to update your firmware, of course, you're going to need the firmware. You're also going to need VKB dev config to make sure that you can that your device is working properly. And you'll also need VKB Z bootloader, which is the application you use to update the firmware. So to download any of these things, you just click on them. It'll open up a zip file, and then you extract the zip file anywhere you want. In this case, I extracted Z bootloader into just a random file on my second drive. This doesn't need to be put in program files. In fact, don't put Z bootloader or VKB dev config or anything else in program files unless you want to deal with device permissions, because like your program files and some other folders on your Windows-based computer will have some security restrictions compared to just creating a random folder. So I just created a folder called VKB, which you can put that on your C drive, D drive, wherever you want. If you put things in like OneDrive or a cloud storage, that can also cause problems. So save yourself the trouble. Just create a little drive or a directory on your drive called VKB. And then after that, go ahead and run Z bootloader. This is going to start the process of updating your firmware. So this comes up here. I have a VKB Gladiator Evo that has a relatively recent firmware, but we're going to still update this. So you double click on the device here in the device list. I recommend that you don't connect too many devices at the same time, because that can kind of be confusing. So if you're updating a number of devices, just connect them one by one. And also make sure that you have a nice stable connection to your motherboard or a powered USB hub if you have one of those. So we're going to double click this. And now it is in the mode where it can receive the boot file, the bootloader file. To select the file, see where it says select file? You just click the little three dots to the right, and then go to the location where you downloaded your firmware. In this case, I put all of my firmware in a folder called firmware, and it's all labeled by which version. I have the brand new firmware, which I will cover after this. This is the very, very latest. It's version 2.20C. So I'm going to go here. And this is where a lot of people have questions. What do you use? In the firmware package that you download, that zip file, there should be a couple of images in there that show you what version of firmware you use for your device. A common question, the most common question, of course, is that people have the VKB Gladiator NXT Evo. All right, so it looks like this. I'll pull this over here. And they get confused because it says Gladiator NXT Evo. And then they think, well, I have a Gladiator. No, you actually have a Gladiator Evo. I know it's really confusing because there is a product from a very, very long time ago, like 10 years ago, that's called the original Gladiator. You don't have that. If you have something that looks like this, if it was bought anywhere between like 2022, I'd say, and on, it's probably a Gladiator NXT Evo. It's also not a Gladiator NXT. Those are like 2022 through, prior, a few years prior. The Evo has upgraded internals, upgraded gimbal. It's a different device, but unfortunately it still shares that NXT Evo. But the easiest way of figuring out what you have is if on your base here, it says SW1 on the left, right where I'm showing you, that's an Evo, an NXT Evo. If you have an encoder here, so it says EN1, and on the other side it says EN2, that's an NXT. That's my little trick there. All right, so now that you know some of the tricks that I'm giving away, let's go and check our files. So the NXT Evo would be under the Gladiator NXT series. And then you'll look here and you'll see, well, I have Evo OTA, Evo, NXT OTA, etc. So the OTA is for the Omni Throttle version, and I will go back. And it's something like this, where it has the angled Omni Throttle adapter. The Omni Throttle adapter is not really that much different than the straight stick version. The only difference is that the default dead zones are changed, as well as the product name and other identifiers. So if you are going to, you can install regular straight stick firmware onto a Omni Throttle device or vice versa. Just be prepared because it might change your bindings in some games. Okay. So since I have the straight stick version, I'm just going to load the Gladiator Evo. And now that firmware package up here is loaded. And now I'm going to click this button that says flash it. So we're going to flash. Another thing you might want to do is you'll probably want to turn off any LED control apps like Razer Synapse or Corsair iQ, other things like that. So now that my device has been flashed, we're going to go and check it. I'm going to go into VKB device config. I downloaded the latest version of this. So we're going to go to the very, very, very newest one. That's VKB dev config 93.82. Load this up. And interestingly enough, we're just going to drag this over here. Cool. So there's some really new changes with this very new firmware and this new version of device config. So I'm going to double click on my Gladiator Evo and just make sure that in this case it's calibrated. But if you have a brand new device and you want to calibrate it, I'll show you how to do that. So you go to Tools, which is this button right here at the top. Then click the big red button. If you have an older version of VKB device config, it will ask you if you wish to auto-configure your device at this time. The very, very, very newest version of the VKB device config doesn't ask you. It just does it automatically, which is fantastic. But if it asks you to if you want to auto-configure or configure your device, definitely allow that to happen. You need to do that. And the next thing, it says, need to calibrate controller. Do it now. I'm going to click yes. Notice how it doesn't say anything here. In fact, I'll minimize my other windows. It's not saying, like, in a very visible way that calibration is underway. But if you look up here under the device picture, it says calibration. So you are in calibration mode. And you'll want to calibrate all of the axes. So I'm going to take my main axis, which is the left-right axis, the x-axis. I'm going to slowly push it all the way to the left and right a couple times. I'm going to do the same thing for the y-axis. Now I'm just slowly moving it from one end to the other end. Then the next thing that a lot of people forget is they forget to rotate and do the twist axis. So make sure that you twist the stick. If you have your twist axis available, you'll want to do this. Of course, if it's locked out, it doesn't matter. Next thing, if you have any version of the Gladiator NXT or Evo, you'll have the little mini throttle paddle on the bottom. So just move that little mini throttle paddle all the way up and down a couple times. And if you have the premium version of the Space Combat grip or any of the other grips that have a analog mini stick on them, you'll want to go and calibrate the mini stick. So in this case, I'm going to rotate. I'm going to use the mini stick and go up and down a few times and left and right a few times. And then when you're done with calibration, you just click End Calibration and your device will restart, and voila, it works. Now here's one more thing. What happens if you want to go and get the latest firmware and the latest software? Well, instead of going to vkbcontrollers.com, you can go to the beta page, which is at this link here. I'll put the link in the description, but it's enjoy32.vkb-sim.pro. No, it sounds kind of convoluted, but that's where all like the beta firmware is and beta software. So you can go to the firmware package. It's available in 2 different sources. So you can either download it straight from Microsoft OneDrive, or you can go to Mega Cloud. Alternatively, you can also download from, you have to download the firmware and the software, and they should match. So if you're downloading the latest version from, let's say, Mega Cloud, so I'm going to click Mega, and it'll have the last few versions of firmware here. And in this case, I'm going to look for 2.20, and here's 2.20c. Here's the very, very, very newest thing. You can download this whole thing. You can just click download, and you can just do standard download. It'll download to your computer. If you're confused about which version of the Gladiator NXT or Evo that you have, you can take a look at these images that are included here. And the same thing goes for the Stex. If you have the Stex throttle, you can take a look at these images that are included in this package, and it'll show you which firmware version is the right version to use. And if you get the latest firmware, well, guess what? Give it a test, try out some of the new features. The new features are also listed here under the What's New page. You may need to go to right-click and translate to English, and then it'll show you everything here. That's right-click, translate to English if you're using Chrome or any other browser that has built-in translation. Otherwise, you can just use Google Translate. And there's a lot of stuff going on. If you've used VKB Device Config, you know that it is probably the most powerful game input software that any manufacturer of input devices releases. So there's so much you can do. I'll make more videos about that, but this just shows you how to update your stick, how to go and have the latest firmware. And if you discover a bug or something else, go on the Discord. The link will be in the description below, and let us know. Say, hey, I figured out a bug with the latest firmware package. I would like to try something and it's not working. Tell us, and you'll help development. So thanks so much for watching. I hope everybody has a great 2026. This is Untold Force, and make sure that you stay safe this year. Thank you.